Hare Krishna, Radhika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radhika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj. This is Shama Guridas from Sharma.
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all our Guru Maharajas. This is Nina from Naperville, Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Nina Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. This is Sita Priti Devidasi from Dallas.
Hare Krishna, Sita Priti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else who would like to introduce themselves?
Is Prabhuji there, Mataji? Did you see him? Should I call him, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, he's not there.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Did you see Prabhuji?
No, Mataji, we did not see Prabhuji yet.
Okay. Let's call him.
Anybody would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Radha Damodaras and Atma Maya from Austin, Texas. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Damodar Prabhuji and Atma Maya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhuji and Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji will join. I called him. He did not pick up, but after that he saw my message.
Okay, okay, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, he said wait for 2 minutes.
Sure, Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Nama, Vishnu Pad, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Namo, Hare Radha, Maharaj Ji Namo, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Vedanta, Shri Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram,
Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram Hare Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Ram
Rama
Ram
Rama.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare
Rama, Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Ram
Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram Hare Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Rama, Hare Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram Ram
Krishna,
Hare
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 Rama,
Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Krishna
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Krishna,
Ram
Prabhuji.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Mataji. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Mataji, shall we start the recording? Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Amogh Lila Prabhuji on the topic Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 4.28.28. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening us on this topic. I now hand over the call to you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'll just for some time and then Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodhanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodhanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So all of you can view this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 28, verse number 28, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, all right. Tamev manasa grihan bhabavu pramadottama anantaram vidharvasya rajasinghasya vishmani. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Translation. King Puranjan gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently his next life he became a very beautiful and well situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in very house of the king. Since King Puranjan, now purport, since King Puranjan thought of his wife at the time of death, he attained the body of a woman in his next birth. This verifies the following verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam jajit te kalevaram tam tamay vaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. When a living entity is accustomed to think of particular subject matter or become absorbed in a certain type of thought, he will think of that subject at the time of death. At the time of death, one will think of the subject that has occupied his life while he was awake, lightly sleeping or dreaming, or while he was deeply sleeping. After falling from the association of the Supreme Lord, the living entity thus transmigrates from one body to another according to nature's course, until he finally attains the human form. If he is absorbed in material thoughts and ignorant of spiritual life, and if he does not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who solves all questions of birth and death, he will become a woman in next life, especially if he thinks of his wife. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 31, verse number 1. Karmana Daiva Nitrena. A living entity acts piously and impiously, and sometimes in both ways. All actions are taken into account, and the living entity is offered a new body by his superiors. Although King Puranjan was overly attached to his wife, he uh, nonetheless performed many pious fruitive activities. Consequently, although he took the form of woman, he was given the chance to be a daughter of a powerful king, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 41. Prapta punya kritam lokam oshitva shashtai sama shuchinam shumitam gehe yogo prishto vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many births of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into the family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. If a person falls from the path of bhakti yoga, if a person falls from the path of bhakti yoga, God realization, due to attachment to fruitive activity, philosophical speculation or mystic yoga, he is given a chance to take birth in high and rich family. The higher authorities appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead thus render justice to the living entity according to the living entity's desire. Although King Puranjan was overly absorbed in thoughts of his wife and thus became a woman, he took birth in the family of a king due to his previous pious activities. The conclusion is that all our activities are taken into consideration before we are awarded another body. Narad Muni therefore advised Vyasadeva that one should take to Krishna consciousness devotional service and abandon all ordinary occupational duties. This advice was also given by Lord Krishna himself. Although a devotee may fall from the path of spiritual consciousness, he will nonetheless attain a human body in the home of a devotee or a rich man. In this way, one can resume his devotional service. This ends the purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manodishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Gada Mahyam Dati Subhadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gurupade Kamala Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathavitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Adar Sahaganalita Shri Vishadhanascha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वांछाकल्पतरुश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम श्रीमादाय कृष्ण कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी मुखम करोति वाचालं ते ग्रंथि पादमहंते श्री परमानंद श्री Hare Krishna. So it's a very beautiful verse, very instructive episode in itself, because this episode talks about Puranjan. So Sri Prabhupada, he derives the meaning of this term, Puranjan, Purajana. The one who again gets caught up in the material body is Purajana repeatedly. So Puranjana, that's the meaning of Puranjana. So it's an allegorical story. It's an allegorical story in the sense, a story which has not really happened, but yes, through the story there comes many precious lessons. So that phase here we see that Narad Muni is very beautifully, very graphically describing the king Prachini Parishad about his condition. That my dear king, actually over here, Puranjan is no one else but actually you. So here, in today's verse, we see that a point has been highlighted that Puranjan died, and in next birth he took the body of a woman, and he became daughter of the king of Vidarbha, like that. So, and then Sri Prabhupada highlights the point that how when somebody remembers whom or the person who the person was most attached to, that person finally comes to our consciousness. That person he rules our consciousness. Actually. There was once we were in Mayapur Yatra, and during Mayapur Yatra, we reached one place known as Samudragad. So when we reach Samudragad, so there are devotees, they take bath in Samudragad because there is ocean, there is a river which is Mother Ganges there, it's flowing there. So somehow one devotee just slipped into the river. Reason being the bank was just too steep. He just slipped into the river. So and as he was calling out, so finally a devotee jumped into the river and then saved the life of the devotee. And then they asked, Prabhu, you were so much near death. So at that time, were you remember Gauranga or were you remember Krishna? Whom did you remember? So that devotee was very embarrassed. And to some devotees whom he did not know, he said, well, that place I saw Gauranga. I saw Gauranga. So one of his close friends, he asked him, Prabhu, you mentioned to everyone that you saw Gauranga. Did you actually see Gauranga? I said, Prabhu, don't tell it to anyone. Actually, in my childhood, I used to see one advertisement of a washing powder, and that girl who was having that washing powder in her hand and she was revolving. I was seeing that. There was one washing powder ad, Nirma, Nirma, washing powder, Nirma, 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 washing powder, Nirma, and that girl, she's very effulgent and she's wearing clothes washed by Nirma washing powder. And he saw that when he was very close to death, he saw that. So that means we never know. We may think that well, I'll remember Krishna, but at the last moment, what will come to our mind? We should not know. So this devotee was very embarrassed to share that, Prabhu, this is what I was remembering. Oh. So usually when somebody dies, at that time, the entire flashback of the life which one has led, especially the thing or a person one was most attached to, is not able to remember the Lord. It becomes some. I personally seen some of the people, they are leaving their bodies, and when they are leaving their bodies, at that time they are looking at their family members. Their die-hard attachment is unto them, like that. So at that time, one is only able to see that. That's it. In fact, once Birbal and Shah Jahan, not Shah Jahan, Birbal and what was an Akbar. Yeah, Akbar. So they were having this conversation. So Akbar said, well, when somebody becomes old, so naturally one becomes spiritual, you know. People said, become old, the senses may become in Akbar spiritual. What should be spiritual? Yes. There's one person on the deathbed and he's about to leave his body. So let's go and see what's his state of existence. Let's go and see how is things with him. And he said, but also take your young daughter along with yourself. So carry your young daughter as well. He said, all right. So Akbar was there, his young daughter, and Birbal. These three people, they went to see this guy who was on the deathbed now, who's about to die. So as they reached there, so Akbar was asking his health status, about his medicines and his recovery and all that. So this guy who was on the deathbed, he can die at any moment. He was replying to Akbar, but his eyes were there on the daughter. Oh, such a beautiful daughter. Wow. The guy who is old, he's on his deathbed. He cannot do anything with anyone now. Even then, the desires are young. The body may become old, but desires are young. So if somebody thinks that in old age one becomes automatically spiritual, that's not the case. That's not the case. And then, even if somebody tries to remember God, thinking that okay, whole life I'll enjoy, in last moment I'll try to remember God. The family members ensure that he is not able to remember God much, and he was so much attached to them. Those family members, they ensure that this person does not remember God. When he was about to leave his body, at that time he was looking at the family members, and he was looking at everyone at that time. So I started chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was doing Kirtan. So the family members, some of my, especially my grandmother, she said, "Don't do that. Don't do this. Singing and all that. He's dying and you are singing. Oh, mom, leaving me. I said, well, at least he should hear the holy name. Shut up! Shut up! Let this guy leave, seeing our ugly faces. Or everyone around, they were weeping and yelling and ensuring that this guy should not remember God. Even though there is a grandson, and grandson is trying to chant the names of God, but singing, taking names of God, what's this, man? The person should depart, seeing our ugly, depressed faces, crying, weeping, yelling. So if somebody wants to remember God, well. Of course, the body itself in itself is so much in turmoil that this body which is in turmoil, it behooves the person to remember God in the last moment. It becomes so difficult. Tough with the one, all of them are in imbalance. The airs in the body, they are imbalanced. And because of those airs coming out, there is immense pain at the time of death. There are two famous analogies which are given in the scriptures about the pain which one death at the time of death. One analogy is if 40,000 scorpions bite one simultaneously, that's the pain of death, which is very famous one. Similarly, the Smriti Shastra says, there also comes one more analogy that how painful is death. And the example is given if I take the cactus and the cactus is inserted from the navel, and then from the navel it is inserted, ah, ah, and then it is taken out from the mouth. How much pain which one would experience if the cactus is inserted in the navel and then taken out from the mouth. That is the pain of death. When the life air it leaves the body, it actually crackles some of the places. It actually bursts some of the places. And then life air, more the person is attached to the body, more the life air has to struggle to come out of the body. And that way, when that struggle is there, sometimes the organs they burst because the life air has to release some of the organs they burst. And then in this way, the life air comes out. And the person, for the person, it is very, very painful. Usually, it is considered that in case the life air during the death time, it comes out from the lower regions, from the urinary organs. It is extremely painful. And the person who has lived one's life as a tamasic person. So a tamasic person's life here comes out from his genitals because this person was completely sold out to genitals. He was only practicing genitals. And that means when life here comes out of genitals, immensely painful, immensely painful, very, very painful. And since the limbs are now invalid, one is not able to do anything. One just has to tolerate that immense pain. In case somebody is a rajasic, then the life air comes out from the mouth, and sattvic person from the eyes, like that. But usually people, since they are rajasic and tamasic, oh, that way they live such a painful life. So death becomes very, very painful for such people. Why? Because their life has been in rajas and tamas. That's why. So life works on ROI, return on investment. If I got investment of rajas and tamas, so that phase life would be like that only. And that phase, the death of such people becomes so very painful. And then Sri Prabhupada also highlights one more point, which is that those who become devotees of the Lord, for them, next life is glorious. And then he quotes the verse from the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where it is mentioned that there are those who become devotees of the Lord in next life, either they take birth in an aristocratic family or they take birth in a Vaishnava family. In case somebody is not spiritually advanced, then the person takes birth in a very aristocratic family, maybe in heavenly planets as well. Gaur Maharaj was sharing once that one of his disciples, who had recently taken initiation, but she had to leave her body. So she has become a cow in heaven. She has become a cow. So that way, sometimes one may have to take birth in the heavenly planets, or maybe in a very rich aristocratic family, so that one can fulfill one's desperate desire to enjoy the material world. And of course, getting frustrated there and then coming to spiritual life. That happens. So that's one thing. Second is that if somebody becomes spiritually very advanced, if somebody has become spiritually advanced, then one takes birth in the Vaishnava family, in the devotee family. And then from day one, there is Kirtan. From day one, there is Krishna Prasad. From day one, there is Krishna Prasad. From day one. I see all these devotees who are in Gurukul, especially Mayapur Gurukul. Now they are receiving Krishna consciousness right from very birth. A very good example is Amarendra Prabhu, I would say. Amarendra Prabhu is such a nice devotee, very exalted devotee. He must have been a very advanced devotee in his previous life. And that's why he took birth in a Vaishnava family. And right from the very beginning, he got association of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj and other Vaishnavas, and especially later on Radha Govinda Maharaj. And now he is doing such revolutionary preaching, spreading the glories of the teachings from Srimad Bhagavatham and Lord Chaitanya. Wow, he's such an excellent example. And in the sixth chapter, Srila Prabhupada gives his own example, as well as he gives example of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. He says, the humble self and Ashtotar Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. We took birth in such similar Vaishnava families. And when we took birth in Vaishnava families, so right from very beginning, there is so much support. There's so much support from the families. So that means one takes birth in a Vaishnava family. And this turns out to be very, very helping to the devotee. Reason being, the prarabdhas, they are working, but especially prarabdhas which we accumulate in this life, they become very serious obstacles because the person in the beginning phase of life is very impressionable. So because the person is very impressionable in the very, very beginning phase of life, if somebody becomes devotee of the Supreme Lord, so one gets impressions about bhakti. So that's very good. So that means that you will take birth in a Vaishnava family. Another thing which Srila Prabhupada highlights is that since Puranjan was attached to a woman, and that means he took birth as a woman in next life. And those women also similarly who are attached to men, in next life they become men. And when they become men, they become attached to women. And then next life they become women. And when they become women, they become attached to men. And then next life they become the men. Now it doesn't mean always a human life. No. As per karma, one may have to take birth even in lower species of life as well. That's there. But yes, in this way, a person keeps moving from one life to another life to this life to another life. This keeps on happening. Like usually those who are like in India, we see the people who are against Pakistan, and they have so much grudge against Pakistan. So in next life, they take birth as a Pakistani, as a Muslim. Now, as a Muslim, the person would have hatred for India, for Hindus. So next life again in India, and then next life Pakistan, then India, then Pakistan. This goes on and on. Of course, need not be human life, because human form of life is given to those who are very fortunate, like that. Just like once there was a person, he was in a library, he found a book, and that book mentioned the secret address of the touchstone treasure. Secret address of the touchstone treasure. He opened that book and he got the address. That on one of the seashores of Hawaii, there would be touchstone. And the touchstone, the quality of touchstone would be that it looks like the other stones, but it is little different from the other stones, that it is little warm. The other stones, they are normal, but this stone is little warm, but it looks like the other stones. So he went to that address and he saw that there were hundreds and thousands of such stones were there. So the quality of that touchstone was that it is little warm. Little warm. So he was picking up the stones. Now no, threw. As a stone, no, threw. As a stone, no, threw. In this way, he was throwing all these stones one after another, one after another, one after another, one after another. So as he was doing this, in between he also caught the touchstone. But since he was in a momentum, throwing, throwing the stone one after another, throwing, throwing, and then throwing, and then throwing. So in the momentum of picking up the stone and throwing it, he also got a touchstone. Touchstone is so magical that if it touches anything, it can turn that thing into gold. He also threw it in the momentum of throwing these stones. Oh Lord. Same thing happens to the human form of life. In human form of life, like in another species of life, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. Okay, next life of a deer, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. Next life, tiger, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. Okay, next life, kangaroo. Okay, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. Next life, caterpillar, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. Human form of life, touchstone, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, throwing. In the momentum of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, or struggle for existence, one treats one's human form of life in a similar fashion, like that. So that is death. Death is a very important phenomenon, especially when in human form of life, one should prepare for it. Somebody was sharing that in Krishna consciousness, um, one may not get good salary, but after retirement returns are out of this world. So that means devotees in this life, we see that they are working so hard, they are doing so many austerities, they are living such a simple life, they are fasting on this day, that festival, taking so many responsibilities, living a very simple life, downtrodden life. So they are living like that. So that means we see that okay, there is not much of salary. There's not much of salary. But after life, or say at that time, after life, retirement returns which are there, they are out of this world. So Krishna consciousness gives returns out of this world. But of course, when we are living it, that is very austere. So death is actually like examination. Okay. In examination, usually what the an examination, but it is other way around. Paper is leaked out. Okay. So what's there in the paper? Well, there is only one question. Antakale Krishna Smriti or Antakale Narayana Smriti. Option A, yes. Option B, no. That's it. Only one question. If the answer is yes, pass. In case the answer is no, fail. So that phase, only one question is going to come. That's it. Death is going to be examination. Only one question. Paper leak. But what about date sheet? But date sheet is not known. Usually the date sheet is known, question paper is not known. In the case of death, the question paper is known, but date sheet is not known. When are the exams? Maybe after 50 years, maybe after 25 years, maybe after 10 years, maybe after 1 year, maybe tomorrow, maybe now. We never know. Death is going to come when and how we do not know. Even I would be able to complete this lecture or not. कुछ नहीं पता. We do not know. Like I am traveling currently, something happens, some terrorist attack, and then while giving lecture, oh, Amogh Lila Prabhu died while giving lecture in a car. So sad. So that means anything can happen in life. So death is very loyal. It will come. And life is very disloyal. One day it will go. So that is death is, it can come at any moment, any moment. Death. So one should always be ready for that. And since that exam, whose date sheet is not released, so that phase, it is a surprise test. It can happen anytime. Those who are given surprise tests in their school, college, or university days. So we have to prepare for that exam always, because paper can happen anytime. Paper can happen at any time. Paper can happen at any time. So we have to always prepare for that. Always. That means we have to always be ready for Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. When we have to remember Krishna, when we have to give up our body and we have to remember Krishna, we never know. So we should always be ready. Always be ready. So how do we get ready? By thoroughly, sincerely, honestly practicing Krishna consciousness throughout our life. Then, once somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, you mentioned that that we should remember Krishna at the time of death. What if I could not remember Krishna? Srila Prabhupada said, well, that's okay. Is my voice breaking? Sapna, Sameria, Madhuri said that my voice is breaking. Maybe
Yes,
because I'm traveling. Please bear with me.
Yes,
My voice is
Prabhuji,
clear,
you
right,
can
Mataji?
do one. Yeah, you can do one thing. You can turn off your video and just audio. So network is not so good, I think.
Acha, so my voice is breaking.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just switching off my video. All right. So what I was saying, the last thing which I said was that, so we have to always prepare. We have to always prepare for the exam, because the exam can happen at any time. So how do we prepare? We prepare ourselves by uh, very thorough, deep Krishna consciousness. So yes, I was on Srila Prabhupada's anecdote. So one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, even after doing so much of chanting, and following four regular principles, even then, if I could not remember Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada said, well, nice question. Yeah, very good. But what have I told you to do? He said, well, Srila Prabhupada, you told us to chant Hare Krishna and follow four regular principles. Srila Prabhupada said, oh, that's very nice. So you do that. And then the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, that is what I'm saying. Even if I do all of this, still if I could not remember Krishna at the time of death, then, and then Srila Prabhupada said, well, yeah, that's a good question indeed. But what have I told you to do? Since Srila Prabhupada, you have told us to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and follow four regular principles. Srila Prabhupada said, then you do that. And the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, that is what I am asking, that even if I chant 16 rounds every day without fail, even if I do that, still if I could not remember Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada said, that's not your business. That's my business. That's not your business. If you will chant your 16 rounds nicely, if you will follow four regulative principles nicely, then I will bring Krishna to your remembrance. You don't have to worry about that. So in the last moment, even if we are not able to remember Krishna, Krishna would come to our consciousness. Krishna would come to our remembrance, because Srila Prabhupada has promised to all the devotees in coming 10,000 years that if you chant your 16 rounds nicely and follow four regular principles, Srila Prabhupada said, I will bring Krishna to your. So that phase, life works on ROI. We have to always prepare for death, because death can come at any moment. Any moment. So that phase, preparation is required in terms of practicing Krishna consciousness very, very sincerely. Like that. And one should not be attached. Like here we see that example of Puranjan, he was attached to his wife so much. Or sometimes wives are also quite attached to their husbands. One should not be attached. Now a question may come that in case if I'm not attached, then how can I serve? Because service comes by attachment. It is not like that. With detachment comes service. You see that those mothers who are too much attached to their children, they are not able to positively contribute because they are too much attached to their children. They are only doing kuchi kuchi ku. Oh my lovely child, kuchi kuchi ku. But they are not able to work on the improvement of the child, the growth of the child, because they are so much attached. But when somebody is detached, then one can actually render service like that. When I say detached, it means that there are no expectations like that. So one may live in family life, but one should be very conscious not to get too much attached. Little bit attachment would, but yes, one should regulate it so that one does not spoil one's human form of life. It's very, very precious like that. So here we see the example of Puranjana, um, that since he remembered his wife and that way he took birth of a woman. So we should remember Krishna throughout our life more and more and more, so that we remember Krishna. In case we are not able to remember Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada has promised that he will bring Krishna to our lives. All right, I'll stop here now. If anybody has any question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Wow, such a wonderful and nectarian
Hare Krishna,
class,
yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji. Yeah, I request if any devotees have any realizations or questions, you can please go ahead.
Okay, if anybody has any question, yes, any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful class. It was very
Yes,
nectarian,
please.
especially the pastimes of how you build up and took us to the promise of what Srila Prabhupada has given us. So my question today is, once we know that the importance of
Go ahead.
bhakti and it's gone very deep into our heart, I'd like to know like how we can deepen it even more, Prabhuji. How can we perform devotional service from very conscious perspective, very, very consciously. And sometimes even if we are trying, there are lapses, right, in our consciousness during the day. It happens that we are so involved in taking care of the child, or it just, and then we just forget Krishna that time. How do we constantly remember Krishna? Of course it's practice, but I want to hear it from your end, Prabhuji. If you could add and elaborate more. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Mate, no doubt we have to take care of our family responsibilities. That's nothing there, especially when the child is young, then it demands more attention from the parents, and that attention should be given. Especially though these children whom Prabhupada used to call as Vaikuntha children, so we have to give them attention. We have to give them proper care and all that. But yes, one should see that we are to do bhakti along with this. We have one there, Mataji in our congregation. She is a bhakti Riksha leader, and she was blessed. She is blessed with a daughter, very cute, very beautiful daughter. And then she also takes bhakti Riksha classes. She has her daughter in her lap. She is feeding her, and then she on the Zoom she is taking the class, and then she is also correcting. No, no, Mataji, no, that's not the correct understanding. No, this is the right understanding. At that time, she is breastfeeding the child. So we have to understand that in family life, we should not think that we have to wait for the day when things would become very favorable and fragrant are there all around, and we are going to do bhakti. Like one more example of a devotee friend of mine, his wife is not favorable for devotionals. So what does he do? He has told his wife that his office starts at 8 a.m. even though office starts at 9 p.m. So he leaves his home by 8, so by 7 o'clock to reach the basement of his office by 8. From 8 to 9 in the basement, he chants and he reads for 15 minutes Bhagavad Gita, like that. This is what he does. And then he has told that his office gets over by 6 o'clock, but actually his office gets over by 5 o'clock. So this again, he gets 1 more hour in the basement of the building, his office building, and he performs his devotion service in the car. and then he leaves timely, as per the time which he has told to his family. What I'm saying is that whether I may be a mother or I may be a father of someone, we are to do devotional service in this current situation. We should not wait that okay, one day things will become very favorable to do bhakti. No. We have to do it parallelly. There would be distractions, but we have to take care of distractions. We have to handle the distractions. Second thing, which is very important in household life, especially, is to be careful against the bad association. The bad association or non-devotional association may come from the peers, may come from family members, may come from a smartphone, may come from newspaper, magazines, and whatnot, television. So that is in Grihastha life, one should be very conscious not to get victim of bad association, because good association doesn't do that good to us as bad association does bad to us, because to fall is easy, but to go up is difficult. That way, in Grihastha life, one should be very conscious not to become victim of bad association, especially in terms of, say, peers, family members, and all that. A smartphone is also a big source of non-devotional association. So that way, Mataji, we have to do bhakti being at home and see that in current situation, in best possible way, I am to do bhakti. Because Krishna will not see how much you do. Krishna sees that how much you could do and then how much you do. You have children, the child is young, child is very demanding, and then how much you could do, and then how much you do, that is what Krishna sees. So that means Krishna sees everything individually, everyone's performance individually. He does not compare one person's performance with another devotee's performance, like that. So Mate, in this way we are to continue bhakti, like that. One should not wait for absolutely favorable time. That never arrives, especially in household life. When children get married and then everything gets settled, that will take a lot of time. So that means wherever we are, just give yourself to it as much as possible and practically relevant with the family situation and health and all.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very beautifully explained. Very much inspired by many classes that you've been giving in other places, especially in Delhi. So thank you so much for being such an inspiration for all of us. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Begging your mercy and blessings so that we can continue to chant and serve Srila Prabhupada in his mission.
All prayers, all prayers.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the beautiful class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is like, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, how do we make sure that we become more and more sincere and not get laxed with the day-to-day thing and getting so used to Krishna consciousness that we forget to become sincere and more serious, Prabhuji?
For that, there is one verse. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. Lavalab Matra mein Sadhu Sangha confirmed siddhi hoy. So this is little tweaked around verse. So Sadhu Sangha. So if you want to remain sincere, Mate is Sadhu Sangha. If you want to grow in on the path of bhakti, is Sadhu Sangha. And that is, you will see that even those perfected devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj, when Krishna says, okay, I want to give you benediction, what do you want? They say, oh Lord, we do not want anything. And then Lord insists that no, for my pleasure, you ask for something, I want to give you. And then devotee says, that perfected devotee, always let me always be in association of your pure devotees. Wow. So that is, Mataji, Sadhu Sangha is of vital importance on the path of bhakti. So you would never ever be casual, because when you become casual attitude leads to casualty. So there should not be any casualty on the path of bhakti because of casual attitude. But this would happen when we are in devotee association, because the devotees are there to pull our ears. But, hey Prabhu, hey Mataji, what are you doing? Come on, get rid of this lethargy. Come out of it. They would push us. So that way, Sadhu Sangha is very, very vital, Mataji. And we would never ever be mechanistic in our bhakti because of the powerful blessings of Sadhu Sangha, the powerful influence of Sadhu Sangha in our life.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Sapna from area this side, Prabhuji. Hare Bol.
Yeah, Sapna Mataji, Hare Krishna. Please go ahead.
थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी, बहुत ही आपने अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किया आज का जो भी आज का जो लेक्चर था पुरंजन राजा को लेके, प्रभु जी आई हैव 3 क्वेश्चंस। मेरा पहला प्रश्न है प्रभु जी कि मैंने एक बार भागवतम कथा में सुना था कि हम भक्ति प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, जैसे हम साधक हैं, सभी प्रैक्टिसिंग डिवोटीज हैं, तो अल्टीमेटली हम चाहे भगवान को हमेशा याद भी रखें, लेकिन जब हम अपने डेथ बेड पे होते हैं तो उस टाइम पे जो हम गोलोक वृंदावन जाएंगे या नहीं जाएंगे वो भगवान की कृपा पे डिपेंड करेगा। चाहे हम भगवान को उस टाइम पे याद भी कर रहे हैं, चाहे हम कितना ही कीर्तन सुन रहे हो, तो एट लास्ट व्हाट मेक्स अस गो टू गोलोक वृंदावन इज कृष्णास मर्सी। तो मतलब थोड़ा सा मतलब मुझे थोड़ा सा मतलब लिटिल बिट इट वाज लिटिल डिस्करेजिंग काइंड ऑफ कि हम मतलब क्या हम कभी भी मतलब फिर तो ऐसे मतलब जिस हिसाब से हम चल रहे हैं उस हिसाब से तो फिर हम कभी भी गोलोक वृंदावन नहीं जा पाएंगे क्या?
क्यों नहीं जा पाएंगे? क्यों नहीं जा पाएंगे? We can certainly go to Golok Vrindavan because we get to Golok Vrindavan by mercy. अच्छा, we go by mercy, but where is mercy? Where is this mercy? Mercy is there in the process of bhakti. You know, when you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the mercy is contained in the process of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. More you chant, more you earn mercy. More you chant, more you earn mercy. So that phase, like Indra Prabhu used to say, that we have to earn mercy. But how do we earn? More you chant, more you get mercy. More you do sadhu sangha, more you get mercy. More you read, more you get more. So more you do devotional activities, more you get mercy. Mercy doesn't fall from the roof. That even somebody has done so much of kirtan and this that, still if Krishna's mercy is not there. Krishna's mercy is there in the very process of devotional service. So that is Mataji, more you do it, more you earn it. Like that. So that ways, nothing to get discouraged. And in fact, you should be very much encouraged to do bhakti with all enthusiasm. Because the path of bhakti is filled with mercy. When Krishna himself is present, then he gives mercy by glance, then he gives mercy by speaking, by wishing for someone, like that. But when Lord leaves, by Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then they leave the process which contains mercy. Anyone who executes it will get mercy. Is that okay, Mataji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the very, very wonderful class and your time and association. Very appropriate examples. We really need to practice to think of Krishna in the last minute. Thank you so much for rekindling a seriousness. We have to be serious. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
No, and when I say serious does not mean that you should become a frown-faced devotee. He's very serious devotee because he has got a frown face. No. Serious in doing devotional service. A devotee is not cheerful. A devotee doesn't joke, devotee doesn't laugh. No. Srila Prabhupada was very cheerful. Srila Prabhupada was very jovial, and he would crack jokes with devotees. Like once he said, we tell people chant, and then but they say can't. He's cracking a joke. So devotee is cheerful. Devotee is very happy-go-lucky. When we say a devotee should be serious, it means he's serious in doing 9 limbs of devotional service. That's it. Otherwise, one should laugh as well. One should have a good time with devotees. One must have friends in devotional service. All of you should have friends. So that's very important. Where we share our hearts, our realizations, our feelings in bhakti, that's very important. So if you do that, then yes, one can perfectly execute devotional service throughout our lives. One may have counselors required, but one must have friends because there are no walls. There are walls of formalities with the friends. That's why.
It's very nice. Yes, Prabhu. Makes a lot of sense, definitely. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your association.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam. Very beautiful class, Prabhuji, and very nice example. So, Prabhuji, you said the mothers who are too much attached to their children, they cannot make them discipline and cannot give them Krishna consciousness, but at the same time, Prabhuji giving them discipline and Krishna consciousness, and so it's the effect is getting reversed. Like when they get older, we may lose them. So it's kind of difficult, Prabhuji. And still, even though we are like losing them, we realize that we are too much attached to them. Even though we are putting too much discipline and
Yes.
it's very like mothers are always attached to their children. That is true.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. Mate, whether children become disciplined or whether they do not become disciplined. But one thing we are to understand that we are to one day give up attachment to children. And that's the law of nature. You will see even the tigress, when she teaches the cubs how to hunt, once they grow a little bit and they do hunting on their own, and then she relinquishes all attachment to them. You'll never see the family of the tiger and tigress, their children and then grandchildren and grandchildren. No, it's not like that. I've seen many families where earlier they were firstly they are attached to their own children, and now their grandchildren. Earlier they did kuchi kuchi ku with to their children, and now they are doing kuchi kuchi ku to the grandchildren, and then do kuchi kuchi ku to the great grandchildren. And one day their own self become kuchi kuchi ku. Oh God! So that means one day we have to detach ourselves, because we say, okay, now you're grown up, now you're married, you have to take care of yourself, all the best. Now let me exclusively get absorbed in Krishna consciousness. We have to do that. By the time we reach 50, children should be married, they are settled. Now let them struggle in their own lives. If they don't have a job, if whatever, let them struggle. That's their life now. But when we see that if the parents are hyper attached to their children, then whether children become capable or not capable, whether they become realized or not so realized, whether they are very successful or whether they are not so successful, but ultimately we have to leave it to them, because it's now their life. They have to learn some of the lessons in a pleasant way, some of the lessons in unpleasant way, but they have to learn like that only. So that is Mataji, ultimately we have to detach ourselves. When we are too much involved with children, so later on also, then in life they are not able to focus on Krishna. So that way we have to accept the reality that one day we have to give up all attachments to the family members, focus exclusively on Krishna.
yes, Prabhuji, very true, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question?
Sure, please go ahead.
We have time. Okay. Prabhuji, actually, I wanted to ask that I know a devotee, like she's actually my sister. She has 3 kids. She
Okay.
has triplets. And she
Oh.
is struggling a lot with her Krishna consciousness because or because of being triplets, her kids are they have developmental delays, and because of which she's always visiting doctors and taking care of kids. And one of the child is having a serious problem with the gross motor skills and is unable to walk and will be needing assistance lifelong. So
Oh.
her duty towards her kids is so much that it's very difficult for her to manage her Krishna consciousness, and she feels like that because of my duty towards my children, I can never become Krishna conscious,
Oh, I
because
see.
she has very limited time left to do other things
Uh-huh.
apart from kids. So how to
So Mataji,
motivate in such situation?
yeah. Then in such a situation, as I told, that Krishna does not see how much you do, but Krishna sees how much you could do and then how much you do. So that is now what she should do, because she's to take care of the children. So parallelly, she should just keep listening, because there can be loudspeaker, and on the speaker say she is listening to some lecture, some kirtan, and meanwhile she's taking care of the children, like that. And because they're
Yes,
triplets, so
yes.
she has to give exclusive focus to all the 3 of them. A second thing is that, especially in such cases where there are children and we have to take care of them, and one is not able to focus on bhakti, even one is not able to chant 16 rounds. What is figure 16? Even 8 rounds, because children are there. So even 8 rounds are a great challenge. So in such a situation, Krishna keeps that spiritual progress pending. He keeps it in a stack. He keeps in a stack, and as children they grow, and when now they are on their own, and then from the stack, Krishna keeps popping up the spiritual advancement which was pending because of the early days with children, like that, and then they start growing. And you know who gave this a beautiful example? Arula Mataji. Arula Mataji, who has given two such beautiful jewels in the form of Radhika Raman Prabhu and Gopal Hari Prabhu. So she gave this beautiful example that when children, when in their early age, they are too demanding in terms of time, energy, and all that, and parents are not able to do bhakti. In such a situation, Krishna keeps in stack what they wanted to do, but they were not able to do because of the upbringing of the children. And then later on, Krishna just keep popping up from the stack the spiritual advancement which was their desperate desire. So in this case, your sister's case, she is blessed with triplet. So she must maintain desire that one day I'll do immense bhakti, I'll do very solid bhakti. Oh Krishna, would that I could do more bhakti. Let this desire be there. And this desire, with this desire, correspondingly Krishna would put in the stack all the spiritual advancement which Krishna would pop up in her life for incredible spiritual advancement in her second phase of life. So just tell her now not to worry because it is not hurry.
Right, Prabhuji. Right. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
All right, so
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just have one general question, Prabhuji. Can I ask Prabhuji?
Sure,
So,
please.
yeah, we heard that like some people die in the while sleeping in the sleep itself. So, do they also have the same pain that you are saying, like 40
Yes,
scorpions
Mataji,
or?
yes. Even somebody is sleeping, death would be painful equally when somebody was awake or somebody is sleeping. Because when pranavayu, it just bursts out of the body, it gives pain. It is just that one is not able to tell how much pain it is because pain is immense, immense. So even somebody dies, it's not that one would say, okay, oh, this person died very peacefully. He was sleeping. Next morning, we saw that this person was dead. What a peaceful death. Excuse me, sir. Death is never ever peaceful. Death is very, very painful. Very, very painful.
So,
So
how will
that
be
is,
their next? Oh, yeah, sorry, Prabhuji.
yeah, please, Vijaya.
Yeah, so how will be their next life? So, at that time.
The next life is as per karma.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry, Prabhuji, you were saying something. I disturbed you. Sorry.
no, please, please, that's okay, that's okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So, any other question? Yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One more question, Prabhuji. You were saying
Yes, please.
about the paper and examination and everything. So your voice was breaking in between. Can you?
Oh,
Yeah.
I was saying that usually in the paper we see that there is date sheet, but the paper is, we do not know what all questions would come in the paper. But with death, it is opposite. The paper is leaked out. Only one question is going to come. Could you remember Krishna or not? Option A, yes. Option B, no. If the answer is yes, pass. Answer is no, fail. Like that. Okay. Okay, but what's the date sheet? Well, date sheet is not there. Anytime the paper can happen. Surprise test. And because it is a surprise test, like we have given many surprise tests during our college days, school days. So we were always ready for the surprise test. Always ready. So similarly, since death is also surprise test, any time death can happen. I gave the example like I'm traveling in the car currently. Some terrorist attack happens, and all of a sudden, this car blows up, and I die in that car. So any time death can happen. So that is the surprise test. So in such a situation,
Cannot hear you, Prabhuji.
death can
Hare
come.
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah. So that phase death can come at any moment, I said. Even to me, while giving this lecture, while traveling in the car, anything can happen. Maybe a thunderbolt falls on the car and then I'm there dead. All of a sudden, talak, finished. What happened to Amogh Lila? Well, he was giving a class in a car and then he died all of a sudden. It can happen. Anything can happen anytime. You should be ready. So death can come at any moment. Without any notice, she just comes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have I think from the lecture I have a question, not a question, but just understanding, Prabhu. So you mentioned there is a devotee of Gauranga Prabhu, and she got initiated recently, and then she has to leave her body, and we know that she has taken a cow. So how do we know that if somebody, like, we know some pure devotees, but how do we know so how that that she took a
It
cow?
cannot be known. It cannot be known. Only Gaur Maharaj, because he was Siddha Purush, so he knew that.
Oh, okay.
So he knew, yeah. Otherwise, nobody can.
Oh, because of the Maharaj, because he's okay. Understood.
Gaur Maharaj Siddha Vaishnava. Yeah, that's true.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have one last question, Prabhu. Is it okay?
Please. Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, Prabhu. So as a human, we have a lot of anarthas. Okay, even though we are following Krishna consciousness. So, so is it okay to like preach our family member or friend even when we are ourselves not fully pure or anything like that? Is there any harm in doing preaching?
No. We should do preaching because preaching is part of our sadhana. So we must do preaching even if we have not become perfect. Because when we are preaching, so we are preaching not to that person, but we are preaching to our own selves as well. Say, for example, if you tell somebody, say, for example, if you tell somebody, well, chant attentively, and I know I myself do not chant attentively. So at that time, I am also instructing my own self that I should also chant attentively. So that phase, one should not wait to become perfect and then start preaching. So while preaching also we become perfect. So it's a part of our sadhana. Preaching is a part of our sadhana.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That answers my questions. And thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Haribol.
All good, Shishra Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question? Sorry.
Sure, Mati. What's the next? No, please, go ahead.
Prabhuji, as you said that we should try to avoid the association of non-devotees and we should focus on devotees association. So sometimes it is difficult to draw a line if we are suppose trying to preach the colleagues in the office or some of our relatives, we have to preach them also because completely getting aloof from them, they feel that Krishna consciousness makes people fanatic. So how to draw that line?
Well, Mataji, since we are living in the world, so we can have social exchanges with them. Like, for example, if you go to office, hi, hello, how are you doing? Can you give me that report? Well, let's have a meeting on our this month's targets and all that. That can be discussed actually. So one can have social exchanges on professional front, on family front. That's okay. We should not give our hearts to them. That's very important. You may give your intellect so that some discussion on for some duties can happen, but one should not give one's heart. That's the thing.
Right. Okay.
And one thing is that sometimes we are in proximity, but need not be in association. So one can be in proximity, but need not be in association. There is difference between proximity and association. So there are people around us, they may be in our proximity and they are worldly minded people, but we are not associating with them. In the sense, we are not giving our hearts to them, letting our heart getting transformed in somebody's companionship. That's association. So association would not be there, just companionship.
Right, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji,
All
Danvat
glories
Pranam.
to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class and wonderful examples also you have given. Prabhu, I just had a question over here that you said that the death is painful, right? Like at the end of death,
Yeah.
a time,
Yes.
it is really painful. So when we hear about like, okay, the devotees passed away peacefully, like at a certain age or like with devotee association around. So will the same painful death will be applicable for the devotees also, or is it different with respect to devotees?
I'm sorry, Mataji, what's the difference about devotees?
Like when we say like the like we hear, right, the devotee passed away very peacefully.
Ha ha
So
ha ha.
that peacefully means what exactly? Is it the same thing of death happening to them also, but externally
Yeah.
you're seeing them that they did not have any trouble, or how
Actually,
is it?
Mataji, those who are non-devotees, they are very much attached to the body. And that's why the soul has to really struggle and come out of this material entanglement, this body itself. But the devotees, since they have lived their life as per Krishna consciousness, so that phase they are not attached to the body. So the soul very easily departs or leaves the body, and that phase we see our devotees leaving the body is very peaceful because the soul was not attached to the body. A karmi's life, the soul is so much attached to the body that pranavayu comes out so painfully. Oh God! But in a devotee's life, it's not like that. In a devotee's life, one is detached. One was working on spiritual platform. So that phase, the soul was not really so much deeply attached to the body, and that phase, the exit is easy in the case of a devotee. So that's the meaning
Okay.
of having a very smooth and very peaceful death in case of a devotee.
So, and Prabhu, like if we are attached to like a specific deity, so and at the time of death, if you are thinking of that deity, does that mean that we go to how do we does it mean that we directly
Yes,
are
yes, yes. So you'll go to the planet of that deity. If you are remembering Lord Nrsingadev at the time of death, you'll go to Vaikuntha Dham of Lord Nrsingadev. If you are remembering Lord Ram, you'll go to Saket Dham of Lord Ram, because at the end moment we remember the person whom we were most attached to. So if you're attached to Lord Ram, you'll go to Saket Dham. If you loved Lord Gauranga, you'll be in Navdeep Dham. It's like that only. So that phase, your Ishtadev would come to you. So coming, like Krishna's form coming in the last moment is very special. So which particular form is coming, that's by Krishna's grace, and then reach that person's planet.
okay? So it does not depend upon which form of Krishna also, right? Like we have
Maybe
different
Dwarka
Krishna.
Krishna, maybe Mathura Krishna, maybe Vrindavan Krishna, Bal Gopal Krishna, Kishore Krishna, like that.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, do you have time for another question?
Okay, last question.
Okay, then I'll let somebody else ask Prabhu. I've already asked them. If somebody else does not have a question, then I'll go ahead. Okay, and then I'll go ahead, Prabhu. Prabhu,
All
like
right,
with
last
respect to,
question, please.
yeah, with
Yeah,
respect to kids, and like you give so many talks with respect to kids also, right? So
yeah, yeah,
like in India, like the kids
yeah.
have so much of all over, they have so much of studies and
Yes,
everything. So in that
yes.
process, if you feel that okay, my kid this year is
Uh-huh.
important for his education,
Yeah, yeah,
and he's not
yeah,
able to do the regular classes and everything, so how
yeah, yeah.
far pushy can I should be, or what should I do in that case?
Well, Mati, since each and every child is unique, so each and every child is not very academic. Some of the children they are very sporty. Some of the children they are very academic. Some of the children they are introverts. Some of the children they are extroverts. Some of the children they are very quick learners. Some of them are slow learners. Some of them are not so fortunate in their first part of life, but very fortunate in the second part of their life, and vice versa. So there is all kind of variety. So that phase, recognizing your child is very unique. See what are his latent capabilities. So every child is not meant to be a doctor and engineer. So every child is unique. Just see what are the unique capabilities and abilities which God has blessed upon him, and encourage that. He may not become millionaire or billionaire. He may not become a computer science a programmer. That's okay. That's normal actually. There are children who are very very creative. They are very crafty. So that's also one of the skill which Krishna has blessed upon the child. So just like all the 5 fingers in the hand, they are not equal. Similarly, all children are also not equal. So do not expect that every child should become a topper. How is it possible that every child in the class becomes number 1? That's not possible. That's unrealistic expectation. So in case your child is a slow learner or he has got different kind of aptitude other than regular studies, that's also absolutely fine. Just see what are the special things which are there present in the child. And then let child become normal in one's psychological setup. And then one can start doing something more meaningful in the later part of life. So that is how we should groom children, because children, they are unique. That's the thing. So we should identify their uniqueness. We should nourish their uniqueness, and that is we can see that each and every child will have their unique upbringing to become a unique contributor in society, whether spiritual society or a worldly society. So every child is unique. Even child is mentally retarded, it should be loved, because mentally retarded people, the children, they are such lovely children. They may not become genius people of this world, Albert Einstein's, maybe that's okay. But their loveliness and innocence is also so beautiful. So just admire it and try to bring them closer to Krishna.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, devotees. All right, I'll stop here now. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your wonderful
Thank you.
class and giving your time for question and answers. So
Thank you.
I'll pay obeisances to Prabhuji and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
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 Namo
namo
Namaha.
namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Thank you so
Pranjit
much,
Srimad
Prabhuji, for a wonderful
Pranjit
class.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna.